We are delighted to announce that the Neurodivergent Experience has partnered with RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900. To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Hello, and welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. I'm Jordan James, also known as the Autistic Photographer, and I'm joined by my co-host and very best friend, Simon Scott.
And for this episode of the Neurodivergent Experience, we are talking about losing spoons and playing Neurodivergent Jenga. It's Mr. Jordan James. How are you, my friend? You okay?
I'm good, dude. And my buddy Scotty.
It's another week. It's another episode of the Neurodivergent Experience. And I tell you what, guys, we're starting this week with some really, really big news.
I'm excited.
Very, very excited because we are going to be doing our very first ever live show.
Live show. We are going to be doing our first ever live podcast show. It's something that we discussed before we even started doing this together, like a dream one day.
Aspiration, one day.
One day. And this is like, what, the 20th episode? I think this is our 20th episode, dude.
I think it will be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 20th episode. We're flying high. We're flying high.
Yeah,
it's great.
Big milestone, exciting.
So I got in touch with Nadine, who runs the amazing charity Autistic Minds, and we discussed the next live show in Cardiff. We will be doing a live version of the podcast.
It's going to be really exciting. So this is going to be happening September this year, and it's going to be at the Autistic Minds live show in Cardiff. And I'm a little bit anxious about it because public speaking, but I'm also really excited because I know that a few of you guys that are listening will be there. So we will be able to meet you, which will be really exciting. I'll know you're real. How nice is that? So I'm really looking forward to getting to meet a couple of you people, and you'll get to speak to Jordan. There will also be flogging Jordan's book and other merchandise as well, because we're going to be having a stall there. So you'll be able to come and say hello to us. We'll be able to say hello to you. It's basically going to be like a little Comic-Con stall for this podcast, and I'm so excited.
Literally, that's what I was thinking, because I did the event last year. It was great fun, very nerve-wracking. I was there completely on my own, and I have to admit, I was thinking I didn't want to go back. You know, it's a long way to go for me, and I don't really want to go and be by myself again. And even though they were so welcoming, they were so lovely, I couldn't have been happier. But honestly, like the thought of doing it by myself again, and then I just thought, I don't want to do it by myself. I want to do it with my best friend, podcast buddy, and that's where it always come from. So we want to meet you. We want to meet you. We want to say hi, do some selfies, sign some books.
I ain't signing anything unless it's a check.
We just want to live that celebrity lifestyle.
No, please. No, I absolutely don't. But I'm interested to know what I might have a following. Who knows? But this is what my mum said to me the other day, is they were like, oh, people are going to know more about you than you realize. I was like, oh.
No, it's weird, dude. Let me tell you now. I get approached on the street, and they're just like, "Oh, hi, Jordan," and I'm like, "Who? What's happening? Who?
Am I under arrest? What have I done?" Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
Yeah.
No, it's lovely. I had a book signing last year. 40 people turned up, and it was so lovely, and it's just, and I can't wait. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this for you and for us, because it'll be something that I've never done before, is being on stage with somebody else, and it just makes me happier. It just makes me happy, and I've already booked the Airbnb, and we've got a little cottage.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, for me, Sylvia, Karis, and some guy with a moustache is turning up.
Again, the moustache. Great.
Yeah, guy with a moustache. Yeah, like Wario, I think.
Some trauma here, isn't there? that we need to discuss, but not today.
It's watching too much Ned Flanders.
That's it. That's where it all comes from. So, right. Okay. So what are we talking about this week?
Yeah. So what are spoons?
Spoons, other than the things that disappear out of my drawer, spoon theory. So if we imagine in the day, your energy levels, say you have 15 spoons, something negative happens to you or something quite stressful, you can take 3 of those spoons and yeet them out the window, because that energy is gone and you're not going to get it back. So throughout the day, you will use up spoons and lose spoons, and eventually you will run out of them and feel naff. Is that an accurate scientific description of the spoon theory?
Yeah, I mean, scientific is absolutely the word. So what we mean by neurodivergent Jenga is slightly different to spoons. You can be playing Jenga with spoons, because spoons are more, energy based. So, there's lots of things that can drain your energy during the day that can end up leading, to a possible meltdown. But the neurodivergent Jenga is like, I mean, that can be played out in one conversation, because it can literally be many, many little triggers which take away each one of your little bricks. And there's that one brick, or that one small, could be the tiniest little trigger, but because that was the last straw, that's it. That's the last brick, and you didn't, and then meltdown. And unfortunately, it happens more often than I care to admit. It happens less often now because of my ADHD meds, which ironically, the weird side effect that I wasn't expecting them is it absolutely helps me with my meltdowns.
Yeah, that was the big surprise with me as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I really do feel the difference when I don't have them. But the other thing that has helped with that is by understanding my triggers and potentially either trying to avoid them or making them less of a trigger. So it's like, okay, that's a thing that happens, so I should expect that to happen, rather than, oh, that's a really annoying thing that happened, that shouldn't happen. So it's kind of like a mindset change of like, if I'm going and doing this thing, and then I should expect something ridiculous to happen that will just trigger me. We can start with spoons. So what's a good amount of spoons for you to start with? Let's say it's a good day, you've had a good night's sleep, you've woken up a good time, you start with some spoons.
So I would say my average numbers of spoons, I say a really good day is 20. Say an average day is 15, and when I wake up and I'm like, oh, naff day, deficit, say 10. So a really good day for me is a full 20 spoons, the bag's full capacity. I find I wake up with a spring in my step. I go, right, let's get on with the day, activate a bit of the routine of, make a coffee, take your med, do this, do that. That is a good starting full spoons day for me. A low spoons day for me is rotting in bed for a couple of hours, ignoring my alarm purposefully and just staying in bed. And it's like, that's the basis of the day. That's kind of how it starts. I'm either full of energy or I have middle low energy. And then there'll be certain things throughout of the day that can sometimes give me spoons, like this podcast. When we do it together, I have spoons from this when I leave. I'm always really bubbly and bouncing, full of energy.
Same.
And yeah, I get loads of energy from doing this. But then if I go out into the kitchen and I open the fridge and I go, oh, there's not really anything in here that I want, then that may potentially set off my stomach not really activating, not really feeling that sense of hunger. And then I'm not really going to eat very well that day.
Yeah.
And that can slowly chip away at spoons. It's like for every hour I don't eat, that's 2 spoons. And I don't realize they're gone because normally I'm hyper-focused on something, which is also, per hour, maybe throwing away a spoon. So if I finish this podcast and I've got, say, on a midday, I've got 15 spoons, we do this, I've now got 18 spoons. But I will actually maybe lose 8 spoons in the time it takes me to make lunch, read emails, think about getting ready for work, and then I realize it's raining. And then suddenly I've got like 8 spoons. And it can just fluctuate really quickly from having loads to having little. And kind of, I feel like anyway, that's with me. I go through these big bursts of energy in the day, and then I have a deficit, and then I earn it back. And I'm really all over the place with my spoon levels, unless I just don't understand myself very well at the moment. I think is more of where I'm at with it. How do you feel with it, Jordan? What's your sort of like day with spoons like?
See, I was going to say I start with about 10.
Really?
Yeah, I think because I'm old. You lose spoons the older you get, just because I have a lot of pain. So I live with pain. It's not something I talk about a lot. It's kind of something that I kind of forget about. But yeah, I have hypermobility. So and I'm incredibly active, and I'm not good at being patient enough. So yeah, my number one advice to everybody, by the way, is just stretch. Just stretch.
Oh, that's something I've had to accept as I've gotten older. I have to stretch, otherwise I feel really bad.
I didn't, and then I did a lot of exercises, and I still do, and I do stretch now. I wake up in pain, which is straight away. There's the spoons gone. Depending on how much pain I'm in, or where that pain is going to determine what my day is like. And I think the worst thing about pain is the fact that one, you don't want to keep going on about it, even though that's a lot of the time, sometimes it's the only thing I can think about is
don't feed it.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about, oh, that's so painful. But I don't want to keep talking about it because everyone else around me gets fed up and I get fed up. And then it basically just takes over my life. And I'm not going to let that happen. But not being able to go and do sport activities because I've got another injury. At the moment, I have another injury. That takes spoons away. So I want to go and play basketball. I want to go and play basketball so much. And I can't play basketball at the moment. So straight away, there's at least 3 or 4 spoons gone, because I can't do the thing that I want. So, having that need, having that thing that you love being taken away from you because of something you did to yourself, that is a real energy drainer for me, because I got no one else but myself to blame. And I tend to sort of self-hate a lot anyway. So just piling onto that.
This was something I wanted to ask you. Do you find when you have negative thinking and you spiral, that burns up your spoons as well? Because I find I hyper-focus on negative thinking, and then I'm using energy which burns spoons, but then because I'm feeling really negative, I'm also burning spoons. And that's when I have that really big drop and really start to feel really down and really wiped and feeling almost a bit unwell.
Yeah, it's like pressing that nitrous button in Fast and the Furious. So suddenly, like you're burning a lot of fuel anyway because you're driving so fast. But then you just go and you can't, and then your fuel go. I know nitrous is different to fuel, but it's essentially it's like that. It burns through the nitrous really quickly, and that's more spoons. What gives me spoons is something going my way, So I wake up. Yeah, I might be in a bit of pain, but it's not that bad today. And I can stretch it out and I'm feeling good and I can go and play basketball. Weirdly enough, the more active I am, the less pain I'm in, because when I'm moving, it's fine. It's when I'm not moving, but then I move and then I hurt myself and then I am supposed to stop moving. But when I stop moving, that's when things hurt. And it's just always, and I have to overthink it. And it is. But what helps me is just distractions, just distracting myself from either like mental health issues that I have or physical health issues I have. I just need to distract myself. And being ADHD different is actually a real positive in this, because I do distract myself a lot. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about on a previous episode about, like, impulse buying. Impulse buying definitely distracts me. Going on websites and things like that.
Retail therapy, right?
Retail therapy. There you go, my friend. Same page, same book. Yeah. So retail therapy, cartoons that I really enjoy watching, something similar, something that I know that is good. Going out for meals, to a place that I like, eating junk food, unfortunately, as we discussed on the other episode. So just like little things that I can just distract myself with that are just going to cheer me up. That's kind of that's my day, is just searching out things that are just going to make me happy. Video games is a big one. I do love getting into a video game and just losing myself in like a story. That really, really helps me with like not losing spoons as quickly as I would.
Yeah, escapism is a big one for me, and it's touched on something that I'm glad I can bring this up. One of the big things that helps me with spoons, as you can just see behind me if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, is golf. I love playing golf. I love going to the driving range and just hitting 40 balls and feeling limber and getting feel and having that quiet time to myself. Now, I go and actively seek that out, like you with basketball, when I want a bit of spoons or I want to feel exercise or good about myself, load up on spoons. Now, if I turn up to the driving range and it's closed when it says it should be open, I ain't got no spoons left because I'm having a meltdown.
Oh, man.
And that's just one of the worst things is when you go and do something to try and help yourself, and then there's an obstacle or there's an unexpected conflict or some, that unexpected thing that comes in, and you're just like, just stuck in that paralysis by analysis limbo of just going, overthinking it. And now I'm just stuck, just in my car, just raging in quiet silence.
Yeah. That's not Jenga. That's someone that's walked across the room, and while you're playing Jenga has just smashed it, and then walks away laughing like they thought it was funny, but you now want to murder them.
Yeah, and that's really hard to live with in the real world, because it's easy to go like, you just want to kill them, don't you? It's like, it's easy to say that, but living with that feeling and going, well, I can't do that. I need to sit here and internalize it and find some peace. Now that is a spoon burner for me, sitting with like the guilt of feeling negative. And yeah,
one of the best examples of that, weirdly, and number 2 is coming out soon, which I'm actually looking forward to, is Inside Out, the Disney Pixar movie.
Yeah,
that's anyone that hasn't watched it, that is a really great example. It's one of my favorite examples of like this battle in your mind between your anxiety and your depression and
your jealousy,
and the other one that I think is really good, definitely just for adults, is Big Mouth.
Yes.
So Big Mouth is really also great, for visual examples of what goes on in our head. So triggers, little triggers. So like essentially, with the little triggers for me, and I've got so many comparisons of this, and one that I often also like, other than Jenga, is a game called Buckaroo.
Oh yeah, Buckaroo.
And it's a great game. You can still buy it. You can still buy it now.
What?
Yeah, I found it on Smith's Toys. If they want to sponsor it, I found it on Smith's Toys, and I was like, am I tempted? Don't stop the impulse buying. Flipping hell. So I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it, but I might still buy it when you come and visit me
later on.
Yeah, on Tuesday. No,
sometime.
Whenever you come over,
we'll play Buckaroo.
We're going to play Buckaroo, and we're going to do it. Let's do it live. We'll do a little live video of us playing Buckaroo and going, this is literally what it is like living as a neurodivergent person. So Buckaroo is just a game with I think it's a donkey, and you basically have to put little things on the donkey, and if you put one too many things, it literally buckaroos. It jumps out.
It's a Mardy Pack mule, basically, isn't it?
There's loads of examples like that. It's a straw that broke the camel's back, essentially. So, what are the things other than just something being closed, which is more than a trigger? It's a smash in the face. What are the little things? Because this is what ends up leading to a meltdown for most of us. is like little things. So it can be like sensory issues or mental health issues or little triggers, little ones, essentially all during the day. What are your little triggers? A few.
So I have misophonia. So there will be as somebody who lives in sound, because my ears are so sensitive, that's where I get a lot of my sensory issues from. And I find non-diegetic sounds, so sounds that do not belong in the space. So there are times when I'm having lunch, and if I can hear your food screaming in your mouth as it swirls round and you swallowing and drinking really loud, I just want to go and sit in another room and just be away from you. Like when I'm watching a film that I've never watched before, and then somebody next to me starts asking me a question like I wrote the film, I can feel my Jenga pieces just disappearing. So it's things like that. It's like if I'm on the train and my headphones run out of battery, 5 spoons gone. My Jenga pieces are being pulled out left, right, and center, but I'm good. But now if somebody then gets on the train and is on the phone and starts talking really loudly, like really, really loudly to the point of I can't escape it, and I'm just trapped listening to this conversation, then the Jenga pieces are coming out. But those little situations can happen all the time throughout the day. It can be something as simple as I'm sat on Instagram in my living room and Caris comes in and she's on the phone and she's talking really loud, and I just want to go, oh, can you turn that off? I can't really do that. And that happens a lot throughout my day. It maybe happens 10, 20 times where I just go, oh, can you just not? Can you not do that? Can you turn that off? Like, it's like people just pipping the horn at you and you go, well, is that at me? Is that at you? What's that? That's how it feels for me. And there's all these little sounds around me. It's like I'm sat in traffic and people are pipping the horns and I'm going, well, what's the point? We're not going anywhere. And I just get riled up. And they seem to add up and add up and add up. And it always seems to be when I'm seeking moments of quiet and I've already had things in the day that have set me off, it's the little sounds that can make me going from having an irritable day to having a full meltdown day, because it's like they just like pick away at me and go, and then one of them will just, that's it, the pieces come down.
Yeah, it's horrible because there's so often because of these little things, I'll just go, I don't want to do this today. You know, I can't do this today. So that's the sort of days that I end up being a hermit or just completely by myself. And, you know, I will just go to like for a walk with the dogs that but even just going for a walk with the dogs, you know, there's triggers, you know, you get there and just walking along and there's just poo bags hang on trees on the side of the
does mine
thing.
Nutting.
And I'm just like, just bring a bag, like a bigger bag, and put those little bags in the bigger bag and then smash yourself in the face with it.
And mail it to yourself.
Oh my God. Just, oh my God. Like, a little bit of preparation goes a long way. Do not leave poo bag. Is there a
Look
poo
at the
bag
effect
fairy?
It's already having on Jordan. He's just talking about it and it's already, I can see it. This is the neurodivergent experience, ladies and gentlemen. We can talk about our triggers and feel triggered.
Literally, because of the eidetic memory. It's like everything's like a visual memory, and I can see individual poo bags in front of me just getting annoying me. And I'm just like, I will just feel sorry for the person whoever actually does it in front of me, because they're going to get an earful.
This is the unfortunate thing, I think, that comes with the neurodivergent Jenga is, unfortunately, I think there can be like long-term Jenga in the sense of, you've just said there with the poo bags. Every little poo bag you see is taking a little bit of the Jenga out, but there'll be one person that will not pick up their poo, and unfortunately that person will then have to feel Jordan's frustration at every single poo bag he's ever seen, all accumulated into one little outburst, because I know I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, and then I'll be having that last meal.
But this is the really difficult thing is because of that eidetic memory, that hyperphantasia, your response isn't just in that moment, it's all of the buildup of all the other experiences. And when it happens, when it comes out, it's like the finishing move. It's not like it's I'm adding to it. It's no, this is it. We're done with this and we're going to do something extreme on the back of it, from my experience personally.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say I am a lot more chill now, and it is what I mentioned before. It's now in my head, and I had the same with people not indicating. I mean that was a huge.
I was going to bring this up. We keep bringing up people with indicating, don't we? It's obviously something that really gets under our skin because we seem to keep going back to it.
Do you know what it? I'll finish what I'm saying, and then I'll say what.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so with the people not indicating, it's because like there'll be one person, there'll be another person. It just builds up. But the fact is that it bothered me so much for such a long time that I actually drove a different way to work that took longer, but there were less cars because I couldn't handle like the main roads and any dual carriageways at all because of people just weaving in and out lanes, going roundabouts, just blatantly just not caring about any other human other than themselves. But and everyone will go, oh well, I forgot. Forgetting, that's fine. But if you just never do it, you are selfish and you can cause a really bad accident. But the thing is about the triggers is that I expect people now. I go in my car and go, I expect people to not indicate. So I expect people. So when I go for a walk, particularly in like a wooded area where I know there's going to be a lot of dog walkers, I expect to see poo bags. And now I see them and I'm like, oh well, that's life. Someone doesn't indicate. I'm like, well, you're a beep and carry on with my life. They don't actually take as many Jenga pieces or as many spoons as they used to because I expect it to happen. And this is this wonderful preparation is expect the worst, enjoy the best. And I think that's what it comes down to a lot of things. It's just expectations. So but there's some things that I cannot predict. And those now are the ones that really dig away. But I think that like I said, my meltdowns have massively decreased, like hugely. But I think that the things that you can't really do much about, which is why I so feel sorry for you, dude, is those sensory triggers. Because I think yours are probably like worse than mine in a bad situation and better than mine in a good. Because it can swing both ways with sensory hypersensitivity.
Yeah, it's so unpredictable as well because there are some days where I wake up less sensitive. Like there are some days where like I genuinely like, oh crikey, when I was living in London, I had a lot of sinus issues and with the dust and living in old buildings and things. And I got almost like a bit of glue ear in one ear, but because I'm so incredibly sensitive with my ears, I could feel it and could literally hear it constantly. And it was like it was in my headspace, not like tinnitus, which I do have a bit of, but because I couldn't get away from it and I was thinking about it a lot and then catastrophizing about it a lot, it was really stressful, like really, really stressful knowing that there was something wrong with something that I'm so sensitive with. And then after that period, I thought I'd lost a bit of hearing in it because my sensitivity went really down compared to how sensitive it was when there was something wrong with it. So trying to control my mind was really, really difficult around it because of how hypersensitive I am around it. So it tricks my mind, like going, oh, is it this? Is it that? And that can really, again, cause that like nitrous oxide spiral because I'm panicking about myself and then feel like I need to ring a doctor and just catastrophize constantly around my sensitivities when really what's just happening is quite natural.
I don't know if this happens with you, but like people not following really easy to follow rules in general, put poo bags and indicating aside, just in general, somebody who is perfectly abled, no reason why they can't, not giving up a seat for like an elderly or a disabled person or a pregnant woman, but also, obviously it's not always like a visible thing, but for me on a train, like people can't see how much pain I'm in and I don't really show them. But if I I wouldn't expect them to give up a seat for me. It's not something I do. But when it's obvious,
I get that.
I mean, that can trigger me.
Etiquette and kindness can also upset me as well. It's that, like, you're not the only one that gets a bit upset with that. It's like I always really try and open doors for people, and I just naturally call people sir and ma'am if I don't know their name. Like, I pride myself on trying to be a good guy and a gentleman. Like that, you can only have one first impression with a lot of people, and it used to really upset me in London because I had arguments with people all the time about it.
But again, with like avoiding those triggers, is that I tend to sort of think about it in a deeper way. So, if I see someone not giving up their seat, when I'm like, well, that's pretty obvious. You should be giving up their seat. There's an elderly person standing next to you. Why are you not giving up your seat? Then nowadays, I will actually stop and go, oh, invisible disabilities. So it might appear on the outside that person is perfectly able, is perfectly healthy. And the one thing I've learned more than anything, having invisible disabilities myself, is I can't judge. And that helps. So it triggers me because I assume something, and less than, more than, I've actually thought that through. So thinking things through and having sort of, I guess, more empathy, that also helps. But that comes with life experience, and it's not always that simple just to say to someone, oh, you should be kinder, you should be more empathetic, you should be more understanding. And I'm like, but it's not always that easy. So I will get triggered by things because I feel like there's an injustice. But if I actually think it through rather than have that reaction, because that we are very reactive. But if I actually being able to stop and think it through, then I'm like, well, actually, maybe that isn't what I think it is. And again, maybe I stress this too much, but again, I'm able to do that now because of the ADHD medication, because I can, that brain fog lets me think things through and go, oh, maybe that isn't what I think. And maybe I'm actually judging too quickly, but that doesn't stop the judgment happening. So when I don't, or before I had the medication and I just had that brain fog and I couldn't think clearly, because that's how it affects me. I just can't think clearly. Too many thoughts in my head, too much fog.
Too many channels.
So I become reactive, and it's literally like a teenager going through that synaptic pruning process of just like that tired brain. And the same thing happens, like weirdly, the same thing actually still happens, and I'm reactive when I'm tired. So you were talking about being tired. That is a huge spoon burner. So if I'm tired, it's almost like my spoons drop twice as fast. So I'm twice as likely to get to the point of a meltdown when I'm really tired. And that is, again, that's a terrible thing for me, because I'm tired because I can't get proper sleep because of the pain, or I don't want to, sometimes genuinely, I'll admit this, I'm afraid to go to bed. And this actually genuinely happened last night. I kept putting it off because I was afraid that I would go to bed, and then when I woke up, I'd be so stiff and in so much pain, I just didn't want to go to bed. So I was up at about midnight, stretching. Like you would stretch before a workout. I was stretching just before I lay down in my bed.
I can stretch before bed as well when I'm feeling like, it's one of the things that I go to when I'm feeling really like uncomfortable in bed. Because I've been working at home in my office recently, and I don't know if I'm sitting funny, but I've noticed that my back is a little bit tighter at the moment. So I'm finding I'm not sleeping as well at the minute.
Oh,
and
man,
it's just part of growing up, eh? But what you were saying, it's one of the big things that's helped me is, rather than being reactive before it, be proactive. That's been a really big thing that's helped me, is understanding what triggers me and then being preemptive, or like taking a different route, or understanding that I can't change people, but I can change what I do about it. And that's been a really big turning point for me in the past couple of years, but I haven't been able to really work on that until I knew I was ND. So up until that point, I was just kind of like really struggling with why I was feeling so strong with like my justifications of being upset with people or on things like that, and not really being able to let it go. Like spent so much energy on trying to change people rather than just trying to work on me. And I think that comes from maturity. So one of the things that we touched on before we started recording, which I know can really trigger me and you as well, I'm sure a lot of people listening, is missing appointments. Can completely kick my Jenga tower into next week.
See, that grinds my gears, because it's bad enough that I miss something, especially if especially a doctor's appointment. That is a huge deal, because it's like, I didn't book a doctor's appointment. Like, it takes a lot of spoons for me to make a phone call and to book that appointment, to sit there patiently waiting for the elevator music, and then it's your turn, and oh, you're number one, and then it's 10 minutes later and you're just like, whoever came before me, I hate you. I don't really, but that's how I'm feeling at the moment.
Because it's like,
patience for me is I don't have any, because of the hyperactive brain, and I just want to move on to my next thing. I don't want to make a doctor's appointment because I don't have any interest in it. But I have to do it, and I have to do it more often than I want.
As you've said, yeah.
And I put them off a lot. I have injuries now that Sylvia's like, yeah, you need to call the doctor. I have a skin rash that comes up here that I need to go and see the doctor. And it's like, yeah, I'll do that. And it's like, oh no, I've also got to call the car rental company because they overcharged me. And I've got to organize a trip with my son, or I've got to drive someone. And when you're a parent and you've got little kids, that's playing Jenga, because little kids, older kids right now, they can trigger, because they interrupt my flow, and that's the main triggers, is that anything that interrupts my flow and takes me away from, like, oh yeah, I'm cruising, and then
it's that focus, isn't it? You want to be down the road and staying on your road, and somebody cuts you up, and you go, I don't want to go that way. I want to stay in my lane.
Yeah,
and
I was happy here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I totally get that. It's like messing with your feng shui. It's like, I genuinely feel like my headspace is a house. So I've always really thought of it, and like hurricanes come in and they move all your stuff around. But I find, like, it's not necessarily kids, but like from a kid's point of view with parents, I find there have been times with my mum or my dad where I've been doing something and they'll go, well, no, you should do it this way. I go, well, why? I want to do it that way. And they go, well, no, because this is the way that you should do it. I'm the parent, so do it that way.
Oh, no, that's not, you should never say that.
And then I was like, oh, no, I don't agree with that. And then that was the thing, is like, luckily with me and my parents, we can have a relationship where we've always been able to talk. But there are sort of times where, like, as a parent, I'm sure you've been there, Jordan, as your kid goes back at you and then you just like call rank and you go, well, I'm dad, so and that's it.
Only with chores, man.
That's what I mean with chores. My dad trying to get me to cut the grass was just a battle that he's had his entire life.
Yeah, but how I looked at it is like, well, I go to work. I work very hard. So does your mum. We earn the money. We pay for everything. Do the washing up. We've even got a dishwasher that I paid for, and I pay for the electricity that makes it work. I pay for all of that, and I paid for the plates, and I paid for the food, and I paid for the water.
That must be quite triggering.
So I pay for everything. All you've got to do, and I pay for the dishwasher tablets. All you've got to do is put the plates, because when I was a kid, we didn't have the dishwasher was me. I am the dishwasher. I washed all the dishes. I used to really like it. I used to get like this like sense of like, I loved cleaning everything and getting all that dirt off. I loved it. And then racking them up and like almost playing Jenga with like plates and stuff. But I didn't like drying. Drying didn't interest me because water isn't dirty. And I liked cleaning the dirt. I just didn't care And I just thought, well, if you just leave them, they just drain. And then someone was like, oh, you need to dry them. And I'd be like, no, I don't. So another trigger. And and I was like, why do you need to dry them? Oh, because you need to put them away. I said, well, I'll put them away later. But then everybody in the world knows I'm not putting them away later because I'll have forgotten by then.
Is it's like you're going, are they helping me or are they hindering me? And then you realise that they are helping you. But something I wanted to
no, they're making me aware of my faults.
So something I wanted to ask you, as somebody who is a parent and also the father of a dog. Now I never walk my parents' dog on the leash because when it pulls or when it goes somewhere I don't want it to go to, it can rattle me. It can set me off a little bit. Now, I can only imagine what having neurodivergent children with executive dysfunction must be like, because I am one of those children. And like, as I mentioned a moment ago, my dad used to try and get me to cut the grass and I'd really drag my feet with it. But what used to be funny is my dad's very precious over his garden. So if I didn't cut the grass properly, it was worse than not doing it at all. So as a parent, obviously, when you're telling your kids to do chores and stuff and their executive dysfunction kicks in, that must be quite a difficult place to find yourself.
Yeah. This is the thing. And anyone that's listening to this podcast, I would hope that they're on that journey and I don't know if they're at the beginning of the journey, they're far through the journey. They might have been on the journey, they're quite far through it, and they listen to this podcast and go, why? Not as far through it as I thought because I've learned a lot and because you can. And I'm personally always still learning. But yeah, definitely before I understood neurodivergence, my kids would trigger the hell out of me. It'd be like, why? Just why? Why, Simon, did you cut the top off of your brand new lightsaber and stick a grape in it? Why, Simon? Why would you do that?
Why, Simon? Not me.
Yeah.
Simon, why did you do that, Simon?
Not you, Simon. You're Simon. You're my Scotty. You're my Pippin to my Jordan. You are my world.
But the child, not
the
boy. We're talking about the boy here.
You're the Philip to my Terence and the Buzz to my Woody. And so they would take away my spoons, and but they would give me lots of spoons. I'd have so much energy because I loved playing with my kids. And I think what it was when I tried to be an adult, when I was adulting. That's when I lost. That's when the Jenga pieces were just pulled out left, right, and center. Because you're adulting and you're trying to do it right, and then everybody else is like doing it differently to you, and your kids, they've got demand avoidance, dude. Demand avoidance, executive dysfunction, you name it. They've got their little indie brains, and they're so individual, and they think for themselves. How dare they, right? And it was something that I really couldn't get my head around. I'm like, well, no, I've said it, and so you need to do it. And that was very old school parenting. It's not the best way of parenting. But sometimes, like, oh, there's a fire, leave the house, and your kid's going, why?
There's a time and a place for any situation.
Don't grab all your cuddly toys because, you might die. And they're like, but I need this one. That's when you need to take charge. And this is what I learned, as a manager at my work in the exact same way, is that sometimes you just got to let people do their own thing. And it's, you don't have, just because you are in charge, doesn't mean you have to always be in charge. You can just sit back and go, well, I've taught them well and I can let them do it for themselves. And that's a very hard thing to let that go of that control. But it was the best thing I ever learned with my kids, was just to actually leave them alone and just be there and let them come to me. That was the best thing I ever learned. And I've never had a better relationship with my kids than I do now. And it's the same for them. They know when to not approach me, and then they know when to. And I think it's just learning that thing. But when they're little, they just don't understand that. And I didn't understand that they don't understand that because I didn't understand neurodivergence.
Great answer. I can understand a lot of parents that will listen to this that will take a lot from that. Because I know
really? I can't remember what I said.
It was all good. Don't worry, it was all good.
Listen back and go, that was really interesting.
He's good, this guy. I'll listen again.
It was one of those moments where I'm talking, but I'm thinking about something else.
Yeah, this is the thing. I constantly do that with this, where I'm talking and I'm thinking about what I'm saying, and then I have a thought where I go, am I making sense? And then I like come back into myself and I go, anyway, what were we talking about? But no, I think my parents have definitely changed their approach with me since they've learned that I'm ND. And I tell you what, I've given them a lot more slack now that I know they're ND too.
Yeah.
Because I can I reflect on my childhood or like my adolescence and even being a young adult. And I go, God, I was a bit of an arse in moments. And obviously, you're finding the world and figuring out your place in it, and you make a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. But I did blame my parents for certain things that weren't their fault. And obviously we've talked about that, and I'm quite open with the fact that I've got a really close relationship with my parents, but it's not always been the case. You do have your ups and downs with your relationship with your parents. I think everyone experiences that. But one thing that I never truly considered until I was neurodivergent is the fact that my parents have spoons and have triggers and also have things that are going to cause them to have Jenga meltdowns. And I have to accept that could be one of those things. It's, looking at my relationship of learning that I was neurodivergent in the early days, I kind of behaved and thought that it was something that had just happened to me. And my parents were like, no, you've always been neurodivergent. This isn't new to us, how you're feeling. We've experienced this before. And having that conversation with them not only made me feel a lot more comfortable with my triggers and my spoons and the fact that I have some days and don't have them another, but it also made me aware that other people are like that as well. Other people struggle with deficits and spoons, like you were talking about earlier with the chairs and etiquette and invisible disabilities. Giving people a bit more of an allowance and having more empathy has really helped me with my triggers, because I'm more understanding of other people's perspectives now. Now that I know what mine is, I know what my rules are, I kind of have a bit more of allowance for other people's, and that's really helping me at the minute.
No, I mean, I love hearing you saying stuff like that, because I'm like, how quickly you are coming to understand yourself, I could only dream of. And this is why I feel like it's my kids, though, they haven't had the easiest time with me and vice versa, that I do feel they're incredibly fortunate, because they're living in a house where it took a while, but as soon as we realized, what being neurodivergent is, it changed. It just changed. And lots of, my kids have had a great upbringing. And the best thing about getting the diagnosis was the fact that it began that journey of just understanding, just understanding who I am, who my kids are, and just not hating myself for getting upset all the time. Because let's be honest, we can't help our triggers, and it's even less helpful when others judge us for those triggers. And I know we're living in a very different world than the one I was brought up in, where you can say the wrong thing, but you don't mean to say the wrong thing. It's just that's how your brain was working at that moment. And people will destroy you for it. They'll destroy you. And I've had this on social media where I've gone, oh yeah, this thing really upsets me, because it did. And then I posted, and then that was impulsive, and I probably shouldn't have said what I said. But I was like, oh, this is my page. It's a safe space. Not. I feel like I want to say this thing. And then there'll be one person that will just go absolutely mental at me and tell me all the reasons why I was wrong for saying that thing. And it's not like their point isn't valid. It's not like they're incorrect in what they're saying. But the fact is that they're not understanding. You don't need to have a go at me for that in a public space, because you just made me feel worse. So I can get triggered by people judging me when, like, I spend most of my time judging myself enough. I don't need people piling on.
Yeah. No, I get that. I totally get that. There have been times before where like, I've spoken about things that are upsetting me and triggering me, and you get this typical thing of go, well, what have you got to be mad about? What have you got to be upset about? And I find social media seems to be a lot of that. It's always comparing and contrasting and competing of who's not necessarily got it best, but who's got it worst. And that always seems to just get me a bit flat. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Should we try and wrap up?
Yeah. I mean, talking about spoons, I can wake up in the morning and, something that I've said has had an impact on people. And if it's positive, I'll gain spoons from that. I'll be like, something I did actually helped people. And that's where I gain the most spoons is from being an advocate, on Facebook, through the podcast, in person, just even like with my friends, like knowing that a conversation I have with you helped you understand yourself, which is why I love it when you say that you're getting, through your journey, and it's so much quicker than me because of that understanding. And I think it genuinely, your happiness gives me spoons. Other people's happiness gives me spoons, because I know how hard it is when you're ND to find happiness. Like, it is a difficult thing to do. So when I see neurodivergent people finding happiness, mate, there is nothing that makes me happier. And I genuinely mean that.
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous place to end this week's episode, guys. So thank you so much for listening in. And do you know what? Get in touch with us. Comment underneath the post that this is associated with, or drop us a question in on Spotify, anywhere like that, on YouTube comments. What grinds your gears? What takes your spoons away? But also, guys, positive. What gives you spoons? We want to hear that from you. Let's share it out, because you never know what might work for somebody else. So as always, guys, with every episode, thank you so much for listening, continuing this journey with us. As always, if you find a bit of reassurance, camaraderie, or just a nice bit of self-reflection, then this podcast is doing exactly what it's meant to do. So as always, guys, thank you for listening. And Jordan, say goodbye to all the lovely people. Have you got any spoons? How many spoons left? Fresh out of spoons?
Yeah, fresh out of spoons. So laters.
Bye, folks. Bye.